Hey, it's Ed. Today, I would like to show you some interesting things in GarageBand. In particular, I would like to show you scales in GarageBand and talk a little bit about the sound of scales and how to use them. This is going to be very quick and informal, but let me dive right in. Now, you'll notice with GarageBand open here, this is not the normal keyboard that you're going to get, right? What I've done over here is I've tapped on, normally this would say scale right here, this little above the keyboard, right? I've tapped on this and I've selected a scale, in this case major, and now everything I play on this keyboard down here is going to be in the major scale. Now there are two things to know. Major is going to be a selection of notes from the chromatic scale, 12 notes. It's going to be just these 7. And this note right here in gray is the root note, so it lets you know where you're at in terms of the root. This is E right now is the root note. All you got to remember is that's the foundation of the scale. So in order to make it clear to the listener what scale key you're in, that's going to be the clue right there, and that's sort of the home of the scale and where everything launches from. That's all you really need to know to get started. So let's go. All right, so we're in the major scale. What's great about this is if I want to sound major, anything I play is going to sound major. If I want to sound minor, I can change my scale. Now, here's minor. Much different, right? Got that little minor third in there that brings it down a little, makes it a little darker, right? So we're not going to go through all the scales. There's too many to go through. I'm just going to touch on a few and give you a few examples to give you a feel. But I think it's really cool to see what you can do with a little bit of work in GarageBand. Really easy. Select a scale, throw an instrument at it, play around, and see what happens. And just appreciate the incredible variety of sound you can get just by changing the scale. So let's go. All right, so now we're in minor. Let me just play around a little bit and give you a sense of what minor might sound like in the hands of somebody like me who's not a star or anything special. Let's see, here we go. There you go. All right, quick sidebar here. We've jumped into an app called Tonality, which you can get for your iPad. Not real expensive, but if you're interested in the theory behind these scales and what these scales look like on the piano and guitar and intervals and all that crazy stuff, you can get something like this. There's a ton of tools out there. This is just one of them. So this, for example, C Ionian, that's actually major. That's actually the C major scale. And you've already seen that. But these tools are out there for people that want to do it. Today, I'm just going to stick to let's look at the sounds and take it from there. Might cover more in a future video. Let me know if you're interested. So let's get on to the next one. Here's a minor blues. I've got a hard rock instrument loaded. Now, this is not going to sound great. The GarageBand does not have a good guitar sound. And I'm going to try to use the pitch bend here. You can see I've selected pitch in the middle and put a little bend in there. But again, this is not going to sound very great on this GarageBand instrument or me playing it. But let's see if we can get something out of it. Here we go. All right, well, quite a different sound, I think you'll agree, than the major or minor scale, right? And I mean, right off the bat, right? And there's a lot of stuff you can do to bring out that sound of that scale, whether it's major, minor, blues, klezmer, whatever it might be. There's a lot of tricks to that stuff. I'm not going to go into it here, but basically boils down to two things. The root note, the distinctive notes that make that scale sound different than other scales. In this case, there's a blue note in there. That's probably the most distinctive note in the blues scale. And this applies to all things, and then the bends, those really get you, that's where that blues feel comes from. You really just dig into those to those notes, often the blue note, sometimes some other notes, you know. And there's so many layers to it. I'm just touching the surface, but there you go. Anyway, let's go on to the next instrument and see. Now this is going to use a major pentatonic scale, the guzheng. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Hopefully it's close. And it's going to sound much different, not only because it's a different instrument, but because the scale notes are different. Now this is a 5-note scale, pentatonic, 5. And this is the major pentatonic. Now the pentatonic, actually, if we just cheat for a moment, let me switch back really quick here. Turn this off just for a second. Now, pentatonic scale is going to be either this or this. 5 notes, depending on where you start. You either start on this E flat or the G flat. So let me jump back. So if you wanted to play it on the piano, you could certainly do that just by following that pattern. Let's jump back here to let's do the minor pentatonic. All right, and just get a feel for what that sounds like really quick. Here we go. And the major pentatonic. Whoops, let me try that again. Here we go, major pentatonic. Slightly different, but also very, very consonant sounding. Very Asian sounding, right? That's going to be obvious probably to most people. Now, so again, just by taking 5 notes out of 12, what a difference in the sound and the feel, right? And there's all sorts of ways to bring that out, and that's what great musicians do. They bring out the sound of those scales, and they mix scales too. We'll get into that in another video. Let me know if you're interested. Now, last thing I want to cover is a Dorian scale. Now this is an interesting scale. I'm going to show you a couple tricks too in GarageBand that you can use with the other scales, but I want to make this really quick. So let's jump right in. Dorian scale. This is, again, a minor scale in the category of theory. It's got a kind of an exotic sound, very interesting sound to me. Now, here's a trick. If you want to play around and you don't feel comfortable, with those keys and getting out of them what you want, you can turn on the arpeggiator. I'm going to start with, let's start with 16th dotted and start up the arpeggiator. I'm just going to play a few notes here. I'm going to start with this one. There you go. Turn on the arpeggiator and you got a Dorian sound going, you got a little rhythm going, and you can take it from there. Maybe it'll give you some ideas. Now let's try this latch function really quick, because this can produce some cool results too. Let's see what that does with the arpeggiator on. Let's take a listen. Got to turn that off. All right, so there you go, Dorian scale. Now, let me just show you one more scale. The very last one is one of my absolute favorite scales, and that is harmonic minor. Now, listen, at the very end of the scale, this is where it really changes up. So here we go. Notice that at the very end, it starts to get this exotic sound, right? Or maybe it doesn't sound exotic to you, but anyway, it's different, right? Now, that's completely different from a lot of the other scales that we've already heard. It's amazing to me that just by changing a few notes, that you can get such incredibly different soundscapes and feels. But you can do it right here in GarageBand. Just turn this scale feature on, turn the arpeggiator on, go to town, and you're off to the races. Anyway, let's do a little bit of something here and see what we can come up with harmonic minor. This will be the last thing we do before we hang up. So let's try it and see. And there you go. All right, so I hope this has been fun, and happy scale practicing, and have fun with GarageBand and all that good stuff. All right, signing out. Later.